Welcome to another edition of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. Well, our panel returns today to discuss the latest economic and political issues. It's a pleasure to host this knowledgeable trio. The Honorable Joe Oliver is a former federal Minister of Finance and Minister of Natural Resources. Sandra Pupatello is a former Ontario Trade and Economic Development Minister. And the Honorable Gary Marr is a former Alberta Cabinet Minister and Alberta agent in Washington, D.C. He now heads the Canada West Foundation. Welcome back, everyone. General question, I'd love to know what's top of mind for each of you in terms of the economic news over the past month. Gary, do you want to start us off? What have you been thinking about?
Well, look, I don't think any conversation on this subject could start without talking about the announcement of an electric vehicle battery plant for Volkswagen in St. Thomas, Ontario. It's a big deal. It's certainly something that has been lauded by, Minister Fedeli from Ontario, the Premier of Ontario, the federal government. But there are reasons to have some concerns about, will we be able to actually, get the critical minerals out of places like Ontario in order to have the raw materials that are needed to put into this battery plant. So there are legitimate issues with respect to the Ring of Fire, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure needed, the kinds of environmental assessments that need to be done, and the kind of agreement that needs to be put together. But overall, if this is the direction that the automobile business is going, Canada can demonstrate itself to be a very important part of being a part of the supply chain with automobiles in the United States. So if it comes over the line and actually starts producing batteries, this could be a big deal for Canada.
Is that the same game changer for you, Joe? Was that what you occupied your thoughts over the last month?
Well, I'd like to get to that in a second, but I just want to say I was focused a bit on the regional banking crisis in the United States and the possible spillover that will have, because it's creating a credit crunch. As you know, there were a number of banks, 3 banks that have gone basically under in the United States, and then Credit Suisse was taken over by UBS. So we have a real concern in the regional banking area in the United States. It doesn't quite have the same parallel in Canada, but it could create a credit crunch and exacerbate the difficulty the Bank of, I should say, the Federal Reserve has in containing inflation without precipitating a deep recession. So this is making their job much worse. The Canadian banking system is quite solid. It's robust. It's oligopolistic. The regional banks are much less a factor, and so in that sense it doesn't spill over. But the macroeconomic implications of a tightening of credit in the United States will have an impact on Canada, and it will be a negative one. In terms of the very big news about the $13 billion subsidy to Volkswagen's battery plant, and actually there's more. I think there's another $700 million in addition to that. Everybody is saying, well, it had to be done because we have to preserve our automobile industry. I mean, we're talking about I think 8,000 jobs. It works out to about $1.6 million per job, and one wonders whether that money could have been used more effectively in building hospitals or supporting economic growth more generally. The fact is that subsidy isn't going to create those jobs. It's basically going to substitute. It's going to take jobs from other sectors and put it in this sector. It's great for Volkswagen, of course, and it was precipitated for a couple of reasons. One was to match the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which is basically an inflation stimulus act designed to put U.S. money into the whole green energy market. So the prime minister decided, well, we had to meet that, and he did.
Right.